Hey, welcome back to the Step Out and Thrive podcast, and I'm your host, Bethany Joy, and if this is your first time here, well, welcome. And you're in a place where we talk about how to connect deeply with others, especially if you're in one of those professions where you're a counselor, or you're a pastoral care leader, or maybe you're a mental health coach, or maybe you just see people on a one-on-one basis every single day. And deep down inside, you might be wondering, is there any place where I can just take off that hat and just be myself? Well, that's why Step Out and Thrive exists. It helps you connect deeper with yourself, deeper with others, and make sure that you have a community within reach that you can connect with personally and authentically, because we don't want you to burn out. That's why we say dare to do more than just survive and to step out and thrive. So I'm beginning a brand new series today, and I'm so excited about this. So let me preface this. I had an idea a while ago, actually, to come on here and just answer some questions that you guys have been sending me and messaging me and all the good stuff, but I never actually did it. Because honestly, some of these questions were like deep, and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is the podcast to be able to like talk about some of that stuff. But I was brave, and I put on my Facebook, and if we're not friends on Facebook, why aren't we? So check it out. I'm Bethany B Joy, the letter B Joy on Facebook, so you can find me on there. And I asked this question, I'm like, hey, if you could ask any question you wanted to for me to answer on a podcast, what would it be and why? And what I did is I sat down with all of these answers that I got and all of these questions that I got, and I thought this would make an amazing series. And so in this series, we're going to talk about the stories that we tell ourselves. And if we're honest, there's always these stories that we tell ourselves. And sometimes if you're like me, it's like, oh, wow, I'm over that. Like that was my childhood story. And that was a lie that I told myself in childhood, but I'm over that now. Are we? So we're going to talk a little bit about my story. I'm going to answer some of the questions through these episodes. And you're going to be able to really go back and talk about some of the stories that you may have told yourself and how to reframe, especially when we notice this in group settings or with clients, or even with our kids. We can recognize these stories that are going on and going, okay, what do I do if I recognize a story in someone that I don't see as true, but I know if I like call it flat out, they're going to be like not happy with me. So how do I deal with this as a mom, as a counselor, as a coach, as a teacher, whatever it is? How do you do that? So today it is all about who I thought I had to be. And so many of us have dealt with that, right? So many of us have dealt with that. And here's the questions. I'm listening to them as they're told. So Kaylee, who is awesome, shout out to Kaylee. She asked, what's one piece of advice you'd give your younger self? You're going to answer that. Sandy asked, what brings you joy? I mean, I could do a whole series on that, but I'm going to answer that in this one too. And then I really like this. Scott said, how do you stay so happy and positive? Okay, y'all. I mean, yes, I have energy and positivity, and I am happy, but there is other sides to me. Just ask my kids. But I'm glad so many people see that. And it is true. Many people see that, and it is true. And then the last one that I'm going to answer today is, what's your greatest fear? And that's by Lene. And so many of you guys have just asked so many great questions. So that's just 4 that I'm going to answer in this episode alone. And you guys are like, oh my goodness, like, how do I do this? So let me start out with a story. And it's a story about a time in my life where I just felt defeated and just overwhelmed, and how I got through that. And what's really interesting is I'm going to be talking about some of the stories that I believe are going to come out in my new book, which I'm writing right now. And so you guys will kind of get a sneak preview. If you don't want to know the stories that are in this book, just go blah, 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 blah. But some of you guys know these stories anyway. So yeah, anyway, be excited. It's coming out soon. And some of you guys are like, what's it about? You're going to find out. But I'm so excited. So the story I'm going to share today, there was a time a couple years ago, definitely when my hearing and my vision were just at the beginning of the process. Like I could tell something was going on. And I thought, and doctors told me back then, that it was probably due to stress. I was under a huge amount of stress. I had my own business. I was trying to keep going, and there was just a lot going on with the 3 boys. I was going through divorce. I was fighting for the house. There was just so many stresses on me, and I just could not deal with even trying to do one-on-ones. Back then I was doing a lot of one-on-ones. I wasn't doing a whole lot of groups yet. I hadn't gotten that energy yet to do that. And so I realized I kept 1 or 2 clients, but for the most part, I shut a lot of my business down. I kept enough just to stay afloat. But for financials, I decided to become an international student director. Yeah, that's a hard job. But I loved meeting some of these international students, and I got to be with them and connect with their host families and check in on them and see how they're doing. And if y'all thought homesick at camp was a lot, imagine being in a completely different country. But anyway, that is what I decided to do to keep me financially afloat with my boys. And I realized that I was shutting down my office because I looked at this computer and this desk that I really wasn't using that much. And so I was like, I need all the room I can get in this room of mine. So I'm going to just package some of the stuff up, knowing that it's not the end, but just knowing that a season of my life is over. And I remember I was going to the part where I was shutting down my laptop, changing a lot of settings on it and shutting it down for what felt like it was going to be the last time. It wasn't. But I just remember that was the first time I teared. And it was one lonely tear that trickled down from my left eye. And it hit me that a season of my life was ending. Like I wasn't able to get this specific season back, that I was officially walking to a new season. And I didn't want to. I kind of felt forced. I kind of felt out of control. I felt like everything was up against me. I know I constantly had to kind of admit to God that I'm okay. When deep down I knew that I wasn't. And I'm wondering how many of us walk through that in our everyday, that we believe that we have to be strong enough to be worthy, and that we need to be positive enough so that we don't disappoint people. I wonder if that caught anybody else by surprise out there. If there's anybody else that's like, oh, wow, okay, I felt that, Bethany. Many of us in counseling and pastoral care leaders and any kind of leadership places, we live with this lie that we have to be emotionally put together in order to sit in front of somebody else that needs us. That is the biggest lie there ever was. I don't know many people that really know what it's like to be emotionally, quote, quote, okay. In fact, every day when my groups come together, we emotionally check in. There's always a dominant emotion. And if you're numb, that's not okay. There's other things going on there if you're numb. So how in the world did I make it out of this place where I was feeling overwhelmed and defeated and stuck? Well, first of all, somebody asked me about joy and happiness, and I think those are two different things. Happiness is definitely an emotion that you can feel. Joy, I see, is more of an experience. I let people slide by saying they feel that emotion of joy, but joy is really the experience of knowing that people are glad to be with us no matter what, that God is glad to be with us no matter what, that people want to gaze on our face and they want to be with us because we are who we say that we are. We don't have to hide behind a mask. And to be able to experience that in my groups, in my relationships with other people, on a day in and day out basis, I'm excited. I feel fully alive, not only because I get to have these moments with other people, but because I see people giving this gift to others. And they're like, oh my goodness, Bethany, this is the only way to live. I'm like, yeah, yes it is. Like, I don't know how not to do it. And so all of this to say that is what helped get me out of this place, is that it was around this time that I finally found my first couple places where I felt safe to truly be and to truly share and to truly be known. You can't offer what you yourself have not experienced. And that's why I offer the TIP community group, because it's based on so many different opportunities that I've had through Luke 10, through Table and Well, through Thrive groups, through the Trauma Healing Institute. So many different amazing people that allow to provide experiences where I could just be. So friend, do you have that place where you can just be? I had to reframe my thoughts to this. These are the two things that I wrote down. Strength is not my offering. My honesty is. Physical strength is not my offering. My ability to make it through craziness is not my offering. My honesty is when I have to go, I felt God today in a brand fresh new way. And that is the only reason I'm here right now. It could be that honest point as I cried and those tears were a release that I needed to feel. That's being honest. And it could be, I've had an amazing day. My kids are behaving. They've done their homework. My dogs are behaving and haven't barked. I'm having a great day. That could be honest too. We can be honest, and that can be our strength. And the second reframe that I wrote down is joy isn't a performance. It's a byproduct of letting me be human with God and others. Joy isn't a performance. I don't have to perform. I don't have to show up to any of my groups pretending to be anybody I'm not. I am truly glad to be with the people that I get to be with. I can't say that about other places always in my life, but my groups, my tip community group and my Thursday check-in group and the Luke 10 groups that I get to be a part of, all of those groups are people that I'm glad to be with because we know how to be with people without pretending. And that is where a lot of my joy comes from. So I did make it through that time by connecting with other groups. I did make it through that time by connecting deeper with my kids and sharing and opening them up to share. And the reason I'm energetic and joyous all the time, I think it's a byproduct from being parts of these groups and knowing that I can be who I am. I don't have to pretend to be anybody I'm not. That I'm not chasing the world for acceptance. That I know what it feels like to be wanted, to be known, to be understood. And I'm not chasing to get that from everybody. That I know the people that I have it with. And I know the God that I have it with no matter what. So, what can we say? A forward movement question for you. And I would say a step out and thrive challenge for you this week. Ready? Question for you to answer. You can speak it out. You can write it out. I'd love to hear your responses on social media. What would change if you didn't have to earn belonging through strength? Let me say that one more time because that's a loaded question. What would change if you didn't have to earn belonging through strength? How would your life be different? Something to sit with this week, right? I would love to hear your responses. You can email me anytime at bethany@stepoutandthrive.com. And I always love hearing from you. You can also find any of the stuff on my website. I think it's bethanyjoy.fyi. And then you can also find me at Bethany B Joy, the letter B. B as in boy, or boring, what it used to be. BethanyBJoy.com is another place that you can find all my links and connect. And would love to have you. All right, dare to do more than just survive. Don't feel like you have to be strong enough. Know who you are in Christ and step out and thrive. See you guys next week. Bye.